as colloquial as possible and authentic as possible, much like we were in the whole application process as well. Varun is still in India. He's not left yet, right, Varun?
Yeah.
When are you leaving?
17th of August.
Okay. And Sana already at Johns Hopkins, her course started in the summer, and just telling us how intense it's been for her. So that's a good thing. Like, it's good. She's been challenged. Johns Hopkins was a competitive dream school. And then, whenever I work with applicants and I tell them that a dream school is a dream school, not because we've heard about it in India, a dream school, because the rigor and the intensity is crazy and you have to be able to cope with it. You cannot succumb to that pressure. So then Sana is just case in point on that, right? And Krutin is currently holidaying in Canada, but he's headed to Carnegie Mellon in a few days.
Yep.
All right. So we started the webinar. Hello, everyone. Journey to College event, the flagship event of the Red Pen. We are the postgraduate team. Every year, we bring you a panel of people who worked so hard in the last year and made it to their dream destinations, but also have grown tremendously in that process. And that is the key to Journey to College, to bring to you authentic stories about the application journey, who've just been there. If any of you joined us early, you heard me saying that one of our panelists is already there. The other two are just headed to college. So welcome, Sana, and thank you so much for agreeing to do this. Sana, I know it's midnight for you, so special you. I definitely want to start off by each one of you introducing yourself. Tell us a little bit about where you're going to study, what you're going to study, and if you want to state what your background was or what your undergrad was. Let's start alphabetically. So,
Okay then. Hey guys, how you all doing? Good morning to all of you all joining in. I am Kritin Kanmuri. I'll be going to Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh for Masters in Integrated Innovation for Products and Services. Short form is MIPS. I'll be joining in for the course. This course basically is a combination of engineering, business, and design, where you have people from the three backgrounds come in and learn about learn to work interdisciplinarily, as well as learn used for people who want to pick up these other skills and grow in their own careers, or maybe want to shift paths and then grow in that field. So it was a very different choice. It's not the usual choice that people go for. It's slightly different. It's slightly hatke. I come from a mechanical engineering field at VIT Vellore. Matter of fact, I just graduated a month back from VIT, and will be joining CMU soon.
All right. Thank you for that, Kritin. Sana?
Sure, thanks, Ricky. Hi, everyone. I'm Sana. It's nice to be here. I did my undergrad in statistics and economics. And then after that, I worked for about 5 years in consulting, in performance and rewards consulting. And then I eventually transitioned into the nonprofit space to take on some public health work. And that is currently what I've just begun my master's in. So I'm pursuing a master of public health at Johns Hopkins University. And I'm also on a full tuition merit scholarship.
Amazing. Congratulations, Sana. That's amazing. Varun, hi. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Varun Sadesai. I'm heading to Columbia University for a Master's in Public Administration. I'll be starting this fall. I have completed my undergraduate studies in economics, followed by a master's program in public policy from St. Xavier's College, Mumbai. And I'm going for Master's in Public Administration, focusing on economic and political development, along with data analytics and quantitative analysis.
Yeah, my God, that's quite a mouthful. I'm surprised you remember the name of the program at this point. But welcome, panelists. Again, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. For all our attendees of the webinar today, Kritin, Sana, and Varun are going to answer some very specific questions that I've curated, which is customized to their specific journey. But will also take us to some of their experiences to some of the components of the application. We're then going to open it up to question and answers for the webinar attendees to be able to ask you some questions, and we'll end with some really amazing words of wisdom from these people. So stay tuned till the very end. Let's start with an icebreaker kind of a question. Sana, we'll start with you. Can you finish the sentence? And then, of course, Varun and Kritin, you guys take over after that. For you, the most stressful aspect of the process was?
I can write a paragraph on this actually. Yeah, I'd say the most stressful aspect of the process was getting the beginning of my SOP correct. Because I think I was quite certain that I wanted to differentiate myself as a candidate and I wanted to show what was unique about my profile. So I spent a lot of time on that beginning. And I think I was under the assumption that, it has to be a story and you have to highlight some kind of struggle. But a lot of us, I'm assuming a lot of us here come from privileged backgrounds where we haven't really experienced any kind of struggle and developed a passion out of that. But then I think through that process, I realized that it's not about showing struggle, it's about showing whatever passion you have, whatever you're applying for. You can show the source of that passion, how it originated, and that is, develops into like a beautiful introduction into your SOP. So getting that right, it was a long process, a lot of introspection, but I'd say that was the toughest part of the process.
All right. How about you, Varun?
So for me, as excuse me, as Sana said, I would echo her and I would add one more thing. Curating all my life experiences, the work which I have done along with my academics, and fitting everything, in my SOP in those specific word limit was seriously a task. And, like ensuring that I've checked in everything. I'm not just, speaking about the struggles I have, but, what I have done, to actualize change and putting everything in those 250 words. That was the most tedious task for me.
Kritin, what about you?
My struggle or my nightmare is slightly different. For me, it was my GRE. I prefer not to talk about it much. That's how bad it was, but all worked out. And I think the other big, where I struggled was the selection. The selection comes in two stages. One, to what all colleges I'm going to apply to. And the second one is which college do I go to? So it goes both ways. I think that's where I had a tough time, but I sailed through it.
Oh my God, I think you had a tough time picking where to go finally, like after all the admits. I think we had more calls after the admits than for the actual college list.
Very true.
I think the very big question in my head for this panel specifically, and I don't know if any of the audiences have picked two people who are going into a social scientific field of study, and then there's Kritin who's going into a pure field of study, but unconventional STEM. He's not doing your regular electrical, mechanical, data science. And the reason why we handpicked the three of you was because you had a lot of clarity about being away from conventional study. Right? When I work with candidates, when I get people to call me and say, we want to work, but then they say things to me like, I'm interested in the public health space, but will I make money? Right? Or they say, well, I've done an undergrad in economics. It will only make sense for me to go ahead and study a master's in economics, right? Like I have mechanical engineering. Shouldn't I just go ahead and do a master's in mechanical or in comp sci or whatever? I felt like it was very important for the three of you who picked unconventional things, and unconventional for the audience, right? Because Sana, like you said, a lot of the students, not all, but a lot of the applicant work are people who come from the urban backdrop. They are people who not really say no to a career or to study ahead because they've had to work for a living and things like that. And they have great educational opportunities and have the exposure and the right mindset to go and study ahead. For people to then, have to worry about saying, well, I want to do public administration or I want to get into policy, but will I make money? Will I be able to afford my own lifestyle? I always be dependent on my parents. And here you were, Sana, and Varun, you didn't ever talk to me about that. The both of you had so much clarity and saying, I know this connect to want to be, and I will make sure I find the right hustle to make it happen and be satisfied. Varun, especially for you, you had that conviction that this is it. And Sana, even for you, you were very that I've gotten into the nonprofit space. I've experienced it from a work perspective. I know I have what it is to succeed. So I want the three of you, and I'm going to start with Sana and Varun, to talk about how did you choose what you wanted to study, and what are the apprehensions that students face, but then also can resolve it when they're picking something so unconventional. So we'll start with Varun and then Sana and then Kritin for you as well. You from wanting to do product design to then saying, okay, but maybe I'll do innovation and management, and going back to saying, should I do traditional mechanical engineering? And so it's been a journey for you, right? Kritin, so unconventional and so niche called MIPS. Like it took you like 30 seconds to explain the program to us. So I would like to hear about what made you guys choose what you actually studied. Varun, let's start with you.
No, so first of all, like when I was doing my undergrad, BSc Economics from Symbiosis School of Economics, I was always interested in public policy. And, you know, I was quite inquisitive how policies work and how policies and legislations which have been drafted impact lives of individuals. So that prompted me to, you know, search and look for courses related to, you know, public policy. And then based on that, you know, I narrowed down public administration and public policy. And eventually, you know, the apprehensions which I figured were not about employability, but whether this degree which I'm pursuing will it actually help me to work in organizations which I'm looking for. Like, for example, I always dreamt of, you know, after having a degree in public policy to work for any multilateral organization, though it may be United Nations, World Bank or IMF. And that was my apprehension, not per se of, you know, being quite apprehensive about, you know, how will I able to repay my student debt or anything, but whether this job will help me in my eventual career goals. That was my key apprehension. And, you know, I'm just looking at my friends and, you know, my acquaintances who had applied for other schools and other programs. What I saw, they were quite confused from day one. And as Tripti rightly said, everyone was thinking, okay, if I'm doing XYZ degree, in how many years will my student loan be cleared? Or whether this degree will help me get into, you know, a big four company or, you know, XYZ company which they're aspiring for. So this is something which I experienced, and yeah.
And how did you resolve it? Did you get to the point of saying, well, even if it takes me time to do an MPA and then get to you, I'm willing to traverse the path that it takes? Was it a hard resolution to reach?
It was certainly a hard thing, because when economics comes in the picture, numbers come in the picture, and the interest rate which comes in the picture, it is a tough thing. But eventually I had always dreamt of, you know, working for a multilateral organization, you know, working at the global level to actualize change. Those apprehensions were transcended by my future goals. So it was a tough choice, but I narrowed it down.
Fair. Now, how about you? Statistics to public health. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I think for me, getting work experience definitely made the difference. I was always passionate about data. I did my undergrad in statistics, and I knew that was something I wanted to take forward. And in my first job, I did a lot of data analysis, but I knew that I was working in the corporate sector, and I knew that I wasn't really happy with the domain that I was part of. And I was very passionate about the health sector always. So I knew that I wanted to work at the intersection of health and data, but I didn't quite know what that is, right? And I got lucky that I did a lot of research in the pandemic, which I'm assuming a lot of people here have also done, just taken a lot of time to introspect. And I figured out that public health is essentially the intersection of health and data. And then I transitioned to the nonprofit sector to work in public health, tried it out, figured out that this is what I want. These are the kind of job opportunities that are available in public health. And what's the difference before and after the master's, right? The kind of jobs that I can apply to post my master's program are going to be different and more aligned with my interests as opposed to what I was technically eligible for without a public health degree. So for me, getting enough work experience, taking time to introspect, definitely, made all the difference. And the only thing I think I'd like to add here is, I feel like especially in the US, diversity in the kind of work profile you have is considered a good thing. Because I think in India, it personally, based on my experience, I feel like you're supposed to know what you want to do when you're 15 or 16 and then chart out a path. And it's a very specific step 1, step 2, step 3 until you check that master's box, right? But that doesn't necessarily happen in the US, and there's a lot more acceptance towards more diverse routes to the same career path. So while I thought that me skipping from the corporate sector to the nonprofit sector, then to public health is a very haywire manner about, to go about the process, it's actually not haywire at all. And a lot of people have career paths that are not very distinct. So I think it's okay to take time and switch to something else in case you are not happy with what you're doing right now. And then that will help you figure out what you want to pursue your further education in.
And it definitely helps you figure out what you do not want to spend your life, right?
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
Got it. Now that makes complete sense. Kritin, how about you?
So a lot of what Sana just mentioned makes a lot of sense for me. More on the path of getting different backgrounds in. So let me just walk you through how I went through my process. Understanding what you want to do is a major part of it. Your background helps a lot in the sense that the experiences that you gain in the past. Now, as I said, I am joining in as a fresher with no work ex, but at the same time, I did accumulate a lot of internship experiences. The projects that you work on, being a part of student teams, the more activities that you expose yourself to in your undergraduate time, the more learnings you, the more understanding you get, and the more clarity you get. So it helps you then figure out that, okay, I first joined in mechanical engineering thinking that I want to go into the automotive field. Then I went to college and joined an automotive team, and then realized that, okay, maybe it's not just automotive, it's design that I want to be a part of. That's when I was speaking to Tripti and I'm like, Tripti, I want to do a product design kind of a role. And then further, I did a few more things. I grew in my position over there. And then I realized that, okay, maybe I want to get some business also into play. I want some management role as well. And then I then went to getting a lot of more experience. And then I'm like, okay, this is the kind of role that I want to do. Now, I don't know if this kind of role exists in the real world because I don't have that exposure yet. So a simple formula for me was to look at the different curriculums that exist, because let me tell you, each university is very diverse and very different. And if you have something, if you are passionate about something, I am 100% sure there is some university in the world which is offering that course. So it's all a matter of time that you find that specific course that you want and then realize that, okay, this is what I'm passionate about. So linking your goal to your curriculum, seeing how it aligns with your interests is something that you need to work on. Like even when we were shortlisting, the admits that I got into were very diverse. I had a product development role. I had an MEM. So I had a product development acceptance. I have a MEM acceptance. I have a mechanical engineering acceptance, and then of course this MIPS acceptance. But end of the day, I chose MIPS because I am passionate about business. I'm passionate about engineering, which is my core field, as well as I am interested in the aspects of design. So this was like a 3-in-1 for me. So yeah, end of the day, it's choosing what you are passionate about rather than going for how is it going to pan out in the end. So as long as you are happy doing what you want, there's nothing that's going to stop you.
Perfect. And Kritin, you mentioned you're applying as a fresh graduate, you just graduated, but you did internships every year?
So what happened to me was, yes, I did pursue a few summer internships because during course time, it's difficult for us to pursue an internship simultaneously. But also what helped me was I was able to accelerate my credits. We have a credit-based system in the university that I'm in. I was in, and I was able to accelerate my credits, which gave me more time to more free time to pursue more number of internships. And these internships basically were at different companies at different positions doing different projects. So it helped me gain a versatile experience rather than just do it. And I wanted to do that. I didn't want to stick with one company with one job for 5 years or for 5 months, sorry, for 7-8 months or a long period of time. Because this is the only time that we will get to explore. After this, you have your master's and you're pretty much locked in. At least that was the perception I had. So I just wanted to dipped my legs in every field, and then it all worked out at the end. I have a lot of clarity as what exists in the market, what all fields are there, and what does each company do. So yeah.
And Varun, how much work experience do you have?
I have I have a work experience of around 3.5, 4 years approximately, because after completing my bachelor's, I was simultaneously working, and I was working with the government of Maharashtra and legislators from a political party, and I was pursuing a master's program at St. Xavier's College, Mumbai. And luckily, my master's was in the evening, so I was able to balance my work as well as my master's. So, and plus my work experience helped me to have a broader understanding of things which I'll eventually do, down the line after completing my second master's. So
Got it. Got it. Sana, how about you? How many years of work ex?
I have 5 years in total, 3 in consulting and 2 in non-profit implementation.
And what kind of a role, or let's talk about percentages since you're a stats kind of girl. What percentage would you attribute to this work experience element of your profile that actually got you this full ride? But not only John Hopkins, you had some stellar admits, and we'll talk about that later. But what percentage of that success would you attribute to the fact that you had 5 years of work experience, which is consulting, which is fine, but also relevant, like irrelevant, but also relevant. Like you said, it was a journey for you. What percentage would you attribute to that?
Interesting. I'd say maybe 50%. Yeah, I think between the SOP and the work experience, I can't quite segregate that. Maybe 40% ish would be a conservative estimate. Okay.
Fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Continue. Tell me.
Just because I think you asked how it supported the process, right? How work experience supported the process. Yeah. Because I feel like it's not just work experience like X number of years, but it's the kind of work experience and even the fact that it's diverse work experience, right? So a lot of people in public health are medical doctors, especially from India. A lot of people have completed their MBBS and now they want to maybe branch out into the more community level medicine. So the kind of profile that's coming into these programs is very typical. Me, on the other hand, I came with like corporate consulting skills. So I had a lot of data analysis skills and also non-profit, so grassroots level understanding of public health problems. So I think the fact that I was able to take that work experience and tie it together in a sense that I'm able to showcase myself as a unique combination, like a unique addition to the program, a person coming with maybe a slightly different set of experiences and a slightly different understanding. So it's the years of work experience, I'm sure, matter, yes, but I think much more than that, it's the kind of experience, and even if it's different or similar, how you're bringing that together and referencing it in your SOP, how you're using it to differentiate yourself from the average candidate. And I feel like a lot of the work I referenced in my SOP, of course, I referenced my nonprofit work, but I also referenced my consulting work because the data analysis skills that I spoke about are not as commonly available in the candidate pool. And that's something I understand now after coming to the program. I realized that not all doctors, no offense, are experts in data analysis. So it definitely matters how you reference it, and it's the quality as opposed to the number of years.
Number of years. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Varun, I'm going to ask you the same thing. And do you feel like your work experience, and it was so related, you've been on point, tuck. Do you think that the fact that your trajectory is so aligned to your short-term, long-term is what converted Columbia for you?
Absolutely. I would say an absolute 95 or even a 99%, because all my internships, the projects which I had done, my dissertation was absolutely aligned with that. And, it was like community service, it was like policy making, it was like legislations and everything, it was just like, a puzzle and, all the blocks coming in the picture and creating a big canvas. So I would absolutely say, a 95 to a 99%, everything goes to my work experience. And then eventually collating that entire work experience, putting it in proper words through my SOP and, SOP prompts and essays, and sending in complete package. But, when that entire dish was being made, my ingredients and everything was my work experience, nothing else.
Nothing else. Got it. But then, do you think this was the right time for you to apply out of college? Because I remember after the admits also, you, me and dad had this conversation about, should I just work for a year and reapply next year? Right. So do you think eventually this was a great time to go straight out of college, or do you think WorkX would have helped you? I mean, you still got a Carnegie Mellon admit. I mean, I don't know how much you want to do than that, but just for conversation's sake, what do you think?
No, definitely. For me, it was the right time. And I feel for anyone who's applying, this conversation would be very subjective. And it would also be a very course-based thing. Like, for example, I had this conversation with you, I remember, because we were trying to see whether an MEM course would be ideal for me. And as I went through the MEM courses, and I'm like, no, this just doesn't seem right if I apply right away. I need WorkX. I need to understand the field a little more and then go into a proper management with an MEM. Whereas for the course that I'm selecting now, I'm like, okay, I have a lot of my cohort that is going to be with somewhere around 5 to 10 years of WorkX, or people with 3 to 5 years of WorkX. I have I would say 90% of my cohort has a WorkX right now. But for me, it was like, no, I'm trying to explore different fields and I want to go in with a fresh mind. I don't want to be set up like, okay, these are the norms. This is how an industry works. So for me, it worked out. And yeah, that's majorly it, I would say. It also depends. So as I said,
No, tell me.
So as I said, it majorly depends on what course you're going to choose and how it works out for you. Another thing for me was, I don't want to spend another year working and then getting back to study. I just don't know how I would adapt to that change, because that is a major change, because I have heard stories where people go into work and then are just sucked into the work experience that it's difficult for them to come out of it. For me, once again, that was a decision that I had to make between MEM and then just the mechanical engineering itself. As I said, MEM required work experience, but if I was doing a mechanical course or the course that I'm doing right now, I think I was just good to go as it is.
Got it. And I think, what you said, Kritin, but also to what Sana and Varun said, it's all about your goals, right? And how the skills are developed, whether you have WorkX, you don't have WorkX, so you have 1 year or 5 years, the skills that you develop, how you can articulate the connection to what your eventual short-term goals and your long-term goals are, right? So Sana very rightly said, it's the quality of it. And like Varun said, the pieces of the puzzle should come together. Eventually, anything that you've done and the time that you spend and the aspiration that you have should all come together to allow me to understand who I can expect on my campus. What is this student that's going to look like on my campus, right? And this is not a US specific trajectory, right? I mean, I know that all three of you are US panelists, and for me, it was very hard decision to continue sticking to that, because I decided very early on that the three of you are going to be my speakers for Journey to College. So I didn't have space for any of our UK admits this year to come in, but it was because the three of you represent a journey that is very applicable to a Canadian journey, but also an Australian journey and a British journey and a Singapore college journey, because you have to stay authentic to your goals. You have to show an admission officer that you have the skills to thrive, not only survive, but to thrive curriculum, right? If you are able to do that and the pieces of the puzzle come together, then whether you're a fresh graduate, much like Kritin, or whether you're who has ticked all the boxes like a Varun, or like Sana, who's kind of gotten different color pieces together and a palette for herself, it doesn't matter. You're going to get the admit of your dream, right? And that does bring me to the next piece of conversation that I want to have. Sana, I mean, it might sound a little boastful, but share your admits with us.
Sure. So of course, I'm at Johns Hopkins currently with a full scholarship. Apart from that, I also had an admit from Columbia for the same program. And I also had an admit from Dartmouth with a partial scholarship.
Perfect. And Kritin, your stellar admits?
So I have two admits from CMU. One is the Mechanical Engineering Applied Advanced Study, and the current program, that's the MIPS. I had two admits once again from USC, University of Southern California. One was a dual degree of mechanical engineering and engineering management. Second one was product development engineering. I had Penn State's product design engineering. I had Northeastern's product development engineering once again. And there was Dartmouth. How could I forget that? Dartmouth's mechanical operation and systems engineering for masters. MSc yeah, it was an MSc.
Got it. And good?
Yeah, so I'd applied for 3 places and I was lucky to get it all 3. First one was Columbia, and getting into Columbia was a no-brainer. I had to get in. Second one was NYU, and the third place where I applied and I got in was Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy. So Columbia was a no-brainer. So yeah.
No, I know, man. I don't know. I don't know. I can see you thrive at Fletcher, but I'm happy about Columbia. I'm so happy. I mean, I remember when Sana was saying, I'm not considering Columbia. I'm like, yeah, I really understand why Sana would not consider Columbia. But yeah, for Varun, I can see, I can see you happy at Fletcher.
And a little fanboy moment. Hillary Clinton is going to be teaching us, taking a few courses, so it had to be Columbia. On a lighter note.
Yeah, for sure. Listen, send us pictures, okay, of you and Hillary in class. But even for Kritin, I thought University of Southern California was such a great fit for him. But we went back and forth, and he didn't want to do CMU. And I'm like, but Kritin, it's, you have to trust Carnegie Mellon. They know what they're doing. You can't, because they're churning out engineers by the second. So they know what to teach engineers. But Kritin, what tipped it? Was it the brand name eventually, or was it the program itself?
For me, it was majorly the program, because again, as you said, USC was an amazing pick for me as well, especially because you're getting 2 degrees at once. You're getting the MEM as well as the mechanical engineering. It can't get any better. And it was the 2 exact courses that I was looking for, because the mechanical engineering also had a design specialization. That's the first thing that I came up to you and said. And the other choice that I wanted was an MEM. So it had both the worlds. But it just felt very ordinary for me in terms of the curriculum perspective. It's like I'm doing 2 degrees at once. Whereas MIPS was more of an exciting path for me, where it is 3 different branches learning all together. It's a project-based course. You are going to get some, you're going to be interacting with a lot of people with a different background. And end of the day, your product, the outcome of you is going to be a niche. You don't find people coming from all 3 backgrounds together and then making themselves available in the market. And somewhere it was that excitement for me of joining that niche and being being able to explore multiple options afterwards is what excited me the most. Because to be honest, the brand name stands with all the admits that I've got. Somewhere there is Dartmouth as well, that stands for the brand name. And I remember telling Tripti that, Tripti, it's Dartmouth, it's an IV. I can't believe I got in there. But it's more important to choose what suits you rather than go with the brand name.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And in your case, you got Dartmouth and Columbia. How did that feel? Did you sleep that night when you decided to give 2 Ivy League admits and taking Johns Hopkins instead?
Well, I mean, for me, Johns Hopkins is like the Ivy League of the health world. So it's like the day I got that, of course, it was amazing to be, for my Indian parents, I wanted to get into an Ivy League, and that happened, thankfully. But I think Johns Hopkins for me it's the dream, it's always been the dream. And for anyone in the health space, it's the dream. So that day, it meant everything to me. Yeah. But coming to why.
Sorry.
Sorry.
No, continue. No, continue.
Yeah. So I was saying, coming to why you had asked how we made the decision on that front and whether the brand mattered. So on that front, I'll say yes and no, because it's important to give a balanced opinion on everything. That's what I'm learning. But yes, because of course I knew Hopkins is associated with the health space, and and anyone in the health industry recognizes it as a superior brand. So I felt like that would help me with job opportunities. So yes, in that sense, but that was a very, very small part of the decision. I think overall the focus was on the program design, right? Now, Hopkins, for example, offers a broad-based program. So you can choose to customize in one sector within public health, or you can choose to get a more broad-based education by taking bits and pieces of everything. And that kind of customization and flexibility is not offered by any other program, be it Columbia or Dartmouth, because when you apply to those programs, you have to pick a particular concentration and apply to that concentration. Whereas Hopkins gives you the opportunity of either concentrating in something if you want, or you can pick a more broad-based approach, which is what was important for me at the time, because I wasn't coming from a pure medical background, so to say. So the program design is one, and two is also speaking to alumni from the different programs and seeing where they are currently in the short term and in the long term, and seeing whether you see yourself, or if that does that trajectory broadly coincide with where you want to be post the program. So identifying the design and the post program outcomes, and then seeing what is the best fit for you, because it is a huge financial investment. It is a huge decision to take a year off from work to be able to study further. So a lot of those, it's an important decision to make, right? So the program design and the post program outcomes are what's most important, as opposed to the brand or whether or not it's an Ivy League.
Got it. Yeah. And like you said, the curriculum, but the outcome, and like Kritin said, the combination of building the skills that I get built. But then the mentors, who's your faculty going to be? Who are you going to be tutored by? Those are the things that really make the foundation of your decision, right? And, when I work with, when they come to me and they say, I want to get into XYZ college, I never discourage them to have dreams on their list. Everybody deserves to dream, because it's the dream. The essay for that dream doesn't make you sleep at night. You're going to want to check it 15,000 times before you send it to your content specialist. Eventually, after you get your admits, you have to be true to yourself. You have to be authentic enough to say, I got vetted by Columbia, I got vetted by Dartmouth, but I'm still going to make this to a place where the curriculum is fantastic. It gives me the opportunities I want for myself. It gives me the skills I want to build, but it also gives me a networking opportunity with people who are real in the industry, who I look up to, and I want to and aspire to have the skills like. Right? So all three of you represent that for me today. And kudos to all three of you having that clarity, making decisions without me to spend a lot of time in schooling you on that. So for me, that was really good, because each one of you came in. Varun, I didn't even know you knew about NYU and Columbia. You didn't even tell me you got into Fletcher. But like, the clarity is amazing. The clarity is amazing because you've done your homework. You've spent so much time on the why paragraph that after you hit submit on the form, you know where you want to. And that kind of became evident to me through the process. Now, because of paucity of time, I'm going to skip over the essay section. I really wanted to, speak to each one of you your essay process, but I have other components that I want to spend time on as well. And we have an essay webinar coming up on September 9th. So I'm just going to let all the essay conversations happen there. The head of content, Nisha, some of you worked with her. So she and I are going to be hosting a webinar on essays. So, I'm going to talk essays. I want to dive immediately into recommendations, right? Varun, let's start with you. What was your recommendation strategy? With 4 years of work experience, did you give a lot of important recommendations? Did you not? Did you go to the direct member of the parliament for a recommendation? Did you take us through your recommendation strategy?
So initially, I remember when I started working with Red Pen, I initially worked with Sonu and later with Nimisha for my LORs. And my first strategy was, instead of having, and what Sonu also had told me, just don't have someone who's glorifying you in those 4 paragraphs, but who will paint an actual realistic picture about what I have done, what my shortcomings are, and how did I work on those shortcomings and eventually become the person who I am, and what will make me an apt candidate for the schools which I'm applying for. So I had 3 letters of recommendations ready. I had 2 professional letters of recommendation and 1 academic. So speaking first about my academic one, my academic LOR was given to me by my head of department at St. Xavier's College, Mumbai, and the other 2 professional letters of recommendations were being drafted by the 2 members of parliament who I was working for. And they were quite exhaustive when I look at the LORs which were being submitted by my acquaintances or the people around me. And I would really big thanks to Sonu and Nimisha for checking them thrice, 4 times, getting them edited, and checking everything, whether my leadership skills are being portrayed properly, my skills are being portrayed properly. So again, big thank you.
I'm sure they would sing you're welcome. Nitin, how about you? What was your recommendation strategy? Fresh student, right? So you get all academic. Like what happened there?
So no, mine was not all academic because I was bringing in a lot of. So collectively, I have bought in a 1 year of WorkX, but all in internships. And because there's this quantity, like at that time, it was just 7 months as the admissions process ended, and now I have a year. But because there was this volume of experience that I was bringing into, I wanted to bring out 1 professional LOR. And so at the time I was interning at Ashok Leyland, and I'd asked my mentor over there saying that, see, I'm going to be applying at this universities. And I would really want you to give it to me. Majorly because the perspective that he bought for me was completely different. The project that I worked on at Ashok Leyland had nothing to do with my field. It was a complete, I was starting something from scratch for them. And I was laying a foundation for a set of series, or I was laying the foundation of a certain project for them, and that too not in my field. So I wanted that to be highlighted out, especially because there is innovation in my name, in my title, course title. Like I wanted that to be projected. See, this guy can step out of his comfort zone and deliver whatever is required. So that was one of my LORs, very again relevant to the skills that I bring out. The other 2 were more related to the kind of course that I'm doing. So there was one faculty who taught me for 1 complete year for 2 subjects, and he worked closely with me, understanding me, going through my projects, and he knew me as a person and what kind of interests that I had. Somewhere his professional experience also aligns with the course that I'm applying to. So that created a connect, showing that, yes, this guy has capabilities to work towards this goal. The third professor that I worked with was my faculty advisor for a student team that I worked with. And that student team was a major part of my bachelor's. I was out of the 4 years, I spent 3 years in that team, and he has seen me grow in that team, contributing at various aspects at various levels and showing a varied skill set. So once again, there were those skills that were being brought out on all the 3 LORs, and at the same time, they matched what I want to do in the end. So I would strongly suggest people to get LORs from people who are relevant to you, and not just have taught 1 random subject at some point of time and then be like, okay, I know this guy's done well, thank you for his efforts. They should have a connect with you, and they should know you as a person to make that LOR worth. Otherwise it's just another third person just writing like, yes, very good, I have seen him work and he's doing well. You need that you need that soft skill to come out, because that's the only place where you can point out your soft skills in the entire admissions process.
Correct.
And that too, it's validated by someone else. I can write it in my SOP that I have this skills, but this is a tangible result that is being shown.
Yeah,
So that was my strategy.
You remind me of a very good point, because very often I have to remind with a recommender who's, like Krutin said, very close to you. Varun, you work with a member of a parliament, but that person you work with very closely.
Yes.
Sometimes people go directly to the CEO, to a partner level, or to the head of the department, and because the credential of the recommender is very good. This is an IIT level PhD professor, but they've never taught you. So it doesn't have any relevance to you per se. Right? You have to work with people who work very, very closely with you. It doesn't matter what the credentials of the recommender are. Sana, what was your journey like? And would you endorse this point that I have?
Yeah, definitely. I think I echo what Varun and Krutan have both said, and definitely agree with what you just said as well, Tripti, because it's important. Of course, I think credentials matter, but if you have a choice wherein you are picking the head of the department or a director in your organization versus you're picking your immediate reporting manager, it's always better to go with the person who's had direct oversight on your work, because at the end of the day, it's realistic that they are able to then reflect on the soft skills, like you mentioned, right, Krutin, and show whatever you've written in your SOP, they're able to validate it through other experiences and also show growth, like Varun mentioned, right? That it doesn't all have to be like praises constantly. It can also be that maybe you started off with something, you were not the best at it, but how did you grow to learn and then do the same thing successfully later on? So I think that's also very important. And I likewise picked a mix of two professional and one academic recommendation, because I wanted to show different skills in each LOR.
Got it. Yeah. I think all three of you had your strategy right. And your recommendation is also a big part of your success stories. Standardized testing is also surprisingly a very important step in the application process. Krutin, you tanked it. Did you submit the GRE?
So I was very grateful throughout the process, because most of my colleges did not require a test submission. Some of them outright.
Krutin, why that worked for you? I'm going to be honest with you today.
Sorry,
It's because
Tripti, once again, sorry, you got cut out.
now.
Hello.
Can you hear me, Krutin?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I was saying that to tell you today why your strategy worked. Yes, colleges were GRE option for you, but your day was so long, semester by semester, and it worked for you as a strategy. It did not work for a lot of other people, my friend. Okay? So you, by virtue of being a good student and academically, you tanked the GRE, but you kind of failed because your GPA was very low.
Yeah, I think that definitely had something to do with it, because so wherever there was GRE optional, although my score was low, and when I say it low, I'm saying it's really bad. I'm not trying to be the modest person, be like at a 310 and be like, yes, I scored very poorly. No, sorry. It was low, but still wherever it was optional, I did submit it. However, I did submit it, but nowhere was it mandatory that, GRE is compulsory. I think I had to submit it only in 2 places, out of which one of them was CMU, and I still got in there. So CMU requested for an optional GRE score, and I still got in there. So no matter how bad your GRE is, you can always compensate it with other stuff and show your skills over there.
Perfect, Kristen. That's exactly the point I was hoping you'd make. Varun, you standardized testing?
I was freaking out initially for GRE, but I was lucky. I struggled. I got a 322 and I submitted my scores, but the quant was a pain. I managed somehow. And yeah, I mean, although all the 3 schools where I applied, all of them had an optional thing, but I guess I spoke with you and you were like, submitted, it's a decent score. So I submitted that and I was lucky to get in the admits.
Yeah. For you, it the no-brainer to submit a 322 with work experience, managing full-time work, doing a GRE and getting a 322. Definitely, Varun, it made sense for you to submit it. And I'm kind of glad you listened to me and even gave it in the first place. I'm kind of glad. Sana, how about you?
Yeah, for me also, I think I gave the GMAT instead of the GRE once before the application process started, and I was not happy with the outcome. And for me, it was more of a like I'm not a good test taker for these kind of competitive tests. And that was just the fact of the matter. By the end of it, I just accepted that, okay, maybe this is something that's not going to work for me. But I didn't want to delay the process and of applying, and I didn't want to lose out on my chance or like not go ahead with it just because of this one component. So I saw through it. I spoke to some alumni who had also applied when it was optional, and the understanding was that, okay, if your quantitative skills are, and your, let's say, verbal and analytical reasoning skills are reflected in other parts of your application, then it's all right. In case you don't have that, then it's absolutely essential to submit it. But if it is reflecting elsewhere and you have work experience and other aspects of the profile which are strong, then it's okay not to submit it, not maybe the best, but one component. It's not everything, it's one component. And it's about just maybe sometimes if it's not working out, just leave it and go ahead, because you can't obsess over getting that perfect score, and then because it doesn't work out, decide not to apply. And in my case, I was surprised honestly when it worked out without a standardized test, because I thought that would be a huge setback, but thankfully it wasn't. So and I don't want to discourage anyone from submitting it, but I know a lot of people who went optional, didn't submit it, and still made it. So don't if you're not a good test taker like me, don't think that that's the end of it.
Priti,
Yeah,
if I may
but
add
also,
over here, although this is something that again, Jocelyn, you and Bradley, who were mentoring me at that time, told me, like, even if it's a bad score, you need to put it because it shows some sort of skills out there. Like, for all you may know, your tests, it may reflect another part of you than what you are expecting. Because as Tripti always says, you never know what's in their heads and you never know what is their criteria. So even though it is
yeah,
optional, you should take it because you never know. It's just a bonus point in your hat. It's just one more feather in your hat.
yeah.
The more you scare away from it, the more harm it may do to you. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's always encouraged to take the test and then give it. It's always a safety.
Yeah, I think the Red Pen stamp of approval is to challenge your comfort zone, right? So I remember we had that conversation that you give it, be a Sana, give it. And then when you get your score, you now make a informed decision about whether you want to submit it or not, right? Because imagine being in a situation where you don't give it, you apply to a Johns Hopkins, you don't get in, and then you feel, was it the test? If I had just taken the test, so versus say you give the test, you tanked at it, you didn't submit the score, you didn't get into Johns Hopkins. At least you know that you didn't submit the score because it was a bad score. You're not second guessing yourself. What if I did, right? So it's always about a no regret strategy that we have with the Red Pen. So our stamp approval is that, listen, however bad you are at the test taker, you're not that bad. Varun, case in point, right? We work with mental blocks. And Sana also, like she mentioned, if you do not have quant a backdrop, you want to give it to show that you are comfortable with the level of rigor in your classroom. But also, if you're coming from engineering background and English isn't strong, your verbal skills are poor, you want to give it to show that, look, I can do academic writing. I can make sure that I thrive in the class with the writing components of the course curriculum, right? So the TRP generic rule of the thumb is challenge your comfort zone, give it, and then speak to your counselor and decide up kya karna hai. What do I do with this score? Do I give it or not? Do I submit it or not submit it? Okay, I'm going to do a quick final round of one quick question, and then we're going to Q&A, because I do not want to keep Sana and Krutun, who are joining us from North America, any longer, very late in the night. Krutun, extracurricular activities, not about your internships, that project that you did that was very clearly linked to your area of innovation and product design. Extracurriculars, did you have anything? Swimming,
Yes.
dancing, singing?
So extracurricular in the sense, I had a student project that was there, which for our college is considered as extracurriculars, as most of the Indian colleges. It's linked into the American universities or other European universities, but for us, it was considered as extracurriculars. So yes, I did have that, which was a major component of my entire SOP, entire essay, my entire realization process. And coming up to, like, if you're passionate about something else that is not in your core, I would suggest stick to it. Display it. It shows a versatility in you, because to be very honest, as a person who has practiced violin for around 7 years, that too 3 years before, it shows a lot of dedication, and they realize it. Like, I have a friend who got a certification in music, and then he posted it, although he's doing aerospace engineering right now. He just mentioned it briefly. That shows in a lot of dedication, like, you have what it takes to pursue your passion. And end of the day, they all feel you are applying for your passion itself. So
Did you
I would
write
say,
about it in the
go
essay?
ahead.
Did you talk about violin in your essay?
I didn't have the space to talk about it, sadly. But yes, I did speak about the other extracurricular stuff that I did, which is technically the
The
team.
co-curricular stuff.
Yeah, and definitely social
Sana?
services is also something that I spoke about.
Right, right.
Yeah.
You are very predominant performing arts, extracurricular, right? How much of that do you have to in your essays?
So I didn't include much of it in my essays, to be honest, because like I think everyone's saying that there wasn't much space. But some of it did reflect in my LORs, because while I was working, I did part-time as a professional singer, and I had my own bands. I would perform in places. My colleagues would come to watch. So my recommenders knew about that, so they referenced it towards the end in my LORs as well. But I did include it in my resume. I did have like a part-time professional experience section where I included some of this, and I made, for any of you who engage in performing arts or any kind of extracurriculars, I'd recommend you do this as well. I put in a Google Drive link with like footage from some of my music performances. I also used to be a professional dancer at one point. Some of those performances, instruments I play, things like that. And I added that as a Google Drive link in my resume. And I think that also helped with adding diversity to my profile, even though my SOP didn't have space to talk about it. But it's definitely good to include it somewhere.
Right. But not in the essay particularly, but somewhere for sure. Varun, how about you? Because I also want to talk about like community service. Varun, what you were doing as in life as a profession was community service. You're constantly being altruistic, giving back. So then were you talking about things that you've done with professional related work in your essay and in other parts of your application?
So for me, the case was kind of different, because all my work which I was doing was impacting lives directly. So I mean, I had done a research paper, because I was working with the member of parliament, we were easy, and that it was pretty easy for that research paper to be actualize change. So there was a welfare board which was being established based on those recommendations, impacting 41,000 lives approximately in the state of Maharashtra. So it was very much different. But my professional work was parallelly, I wouldn't say community service, but impacting human lives directly. So it was so it was like so my community service and my work were, hands in gloves. So it was the same. So that was easy to be, reflecting in my SOPs and my LOR. So it was like working on the grassroots level.
Just like unit open, just zoned in into community impact. I think in that sense, you're like zoned into community impact.
Yes.
End to end.
Yes. So it was like, all hands in gloves. So yeah. So everything
Good,
was
because it helps me. Yeah, this helps me understand that activity connects, then it will find its way authentically, organically. You don't have to find place to build it in. Like if you're doing something which is for yourself, doesn't really directly connect to your personal short-term goals, it may not find place in your essay, but it will definitely find an avenue of expression in some other part of your application. Don't try and fit it into essay and try and connect it to your short-term professional goals or your long-term professional goals if there is no organic connection there. I'm at this point going to open up the floor for question and answers. I'm going to take one question per panelist because of paucity of time. I'm so sorry. We ran a little over. We already have one question in the box. I'm going to start with that question. Any other 2 more questions that we're going to take? After that, if you have any specific questions for Sana, Krutin, or Varun, please find them on LinkedIn. I'm sure all 3 of them are going to be okay with that. And they'll definitely answer your questions. Sometimes they're just going into university or have just gotten there, so they're settling down. But they'll definitely respond to you. Find them on LinkedIn. If you don't have a LinkedIn account, please have one. Like if you're thinking of graduate studies, you need an account. So find them on LinkedIn. For now, we are starting with 3 questions. And I believe you're answering the one about MBA in hospital administration. Are you typing an answer for that one?
Yeah, I was. I can just answer it live quickly.
Yeah, go ahead and answer it.
Sure. So I think you asked, this person has asked whether as an MBA student, should they appear for the GRE or for the GMAT? So traditionally MBA students appeared for the GMAT, but you can actually take either test, whatever works better for you. I think GMAT, the quant section is a little bit harder from what I've understood, and in GRE, the verbal section is a little bit harder. So wherever you want to highlight your strengths, you can pick that accordingly. And for public health specifically, if the GRE is required for that. But if you're doing an MPH, MBA, like a dual degree, then you can also take the GRE or the GMAT. So yeah, I hope that helps.
And also the GRE has a new focus edition as well as the GMAT. So the GRE is a shorter abridged version coming up. The GMAT also started the new focus GMAT edition, which is an abridged version. So you may want to speak to some words of that, do diagnostics, make sure you find which one plays to your strength and then do. But I said, if you're doing like an MPA or an MPH with a dual MBA, the GRE will kind of help apply to departments seamlessly. But if you're doing just an MPH or an MPA, do the GRE. For MBA, it doesn't matter. You can do the GRE or the GMAT. All MBA schools in the units are okay with the GRE or the GMAT. Right? That answers the question. While we wait for people to post other questions, I'm going to start getting one piece of solid advice from each of you for future applicants. You, Krutin, can you leave one piece of very solid advice for future applicants?
My biggest piece of advice is going to be trust the process. Everything is just going to fall in place. Of course, that being said, effort is required. Just ensure your goal is aligned with your passion. I think that's the biggest thing I would say, and that played the most crucial role for me. Because as soon as you align your goal and your passion, your SOP becomes a cakewalk. It's just your journeys that you're seeing. And that's something, because SOPs, as people say, they want to bring out their passion. It's through a story, or it's through I've come through this line of work. As soon as you project that, okay, I have a genuine interest in this. And as long as you can keep the person evaluating your profile interested and be like, okay, this is the guy for the work, because you're that passionate about it, even though you may not be from that field, I think that will just seal the deal for them. Because end of the day, I don't think they want people with a lot of experience over there. They want people who are willing to reach. They don't want people who have already reached there. They want people who are willing to take the steps to reach. So as this says, it's the journey that's more important rather than the final destination. So just be sure that, you are passionate about what you're going to do and you find the right course for yourself.
Thank you, Krutin. That was amazing. Varun, first, I want you to answer this question. Somebody asked if they should mail the professor they're interested in working with for the program. Do you think you would be able to answer this?
Yes, I had done that, and it's a great icebreaker. It shows your passion that you're just not another typical applicant. That it also shows that you want to have your own. You want to add value to the research or the facilities which are there provided by the university. So please do that. It's a great opportunity for you, for the professor to know, and furthermore, if the professor is there on the admissions panel, it would certainly, add a feather on your cap. So please, whoever has posted this question, go ahead, do it. It's a great opportunity. And
perfect. You can also follow them on LinkedIn, follow the work. if they
Absolutely.
publish.
Absolutely. And
And
talking,
if you had to give a piece of advice,
yeah, please don't question yourself. Don't have any self-doubt. Please don't think, yeah, I mean, I want to get into this university, whether I'll get in or no. Trust yourself, send in your applications, have everything right way before time, and trust yourself, everything will fall in place. But don't question yourself.
that's great advice, Varun. Much exactly like you are. Sana, how about you? What is the one piece of advice that maybe you wish you knew from the beginning? Let's twist a little bit. What was the one piece of advice you wish you had at the beginning?
Yeah, I'd say have some more patience with the SOP process and pace it out a little bit more. And I think this is what I had anyway done from the beginning, that try to finish off all the administrative things like your tests, your filling out your forms, etc., which is what I think the Red Pen also encourages. But it's very important to like wrap all of that up as soon as possible and keep 6 weeks, 8 weeks, if not more, for your SOP, because it is an introspective process and there are going to be multiple versions. That's something that you have to be okay with. So it's not like you start off and the first draft is going to be amazing. It takes time. So you need to have patience with it. And when you are introspecting so much, it's also important to just, write it, take some time, think about it, reflect on it, and then give it a second chance. So it's about patience and spacing it out. So time management on that front, especially if you're working and have very side by side, if you have a very heavy schedule, try to figure it out in a way that you are budgeting time to just think about it and give it some headspace. So primarily that.
Okay. I think to just summarize all three of your advice, I would say, trust the process, believe in yourself, and be patient with your essays, right? So I think it's good advice, and it's probably going to be our tagline for the next social media post or something. We're going to talk about it in that fashion. Kritin, Sana, Varun, thank you so much for your time, for the enthusiasm with which the three of you have approached our panel discussion today, with trust that all three of you have placed in myself, in the rest of the team. I never had a moment of doubt that if I said something to Varun or a Kritin or a Sana, that it would take the right spirit. If I've been hard on you, you've taken it well. If I have kind of said, listen, I'm doing a call today, I'm just going to get on a WhatsApp while I'm walking home, and then Varun will be like, yeah, I don't care, just talk to me for 2 minutes. And it doesn't matter if I don't see your face. And then it's been such an amazing journey with each of you. And I know Sonu's enjoyed, Bradley, with all praises for you, Kritin. Sana and Amisha has learned so much in terms of, you are the person, and she's gotten to bond with you. Varun, you and Sonu have such a unique connection. It's amazing. I would be checking with her and she'd say, you don't have to worry about Varun. He and I have been in touch constantly. And it's so heartening to see that each one of you have grown so beautifully through the process. So thank you for your trust. Thank you for your wisdom today. Thank you for your time. And I wish all three of you all the very best. I hope you don't become strangers. I hope you stay in touch with me, even if it's just through LinkedIn. There, guys, masters is really hard. It's not going to be easy to be a Johns Hopkins student, Columbia, CMU student. Believe in yourself, trust the process, be patient with yourself and your academics, and you all three of you are definitely going to shine. Thank you so much. Mr. Harish, we could not answer your last question. Please go ahead and email it to the team and we'll definitely answer it for you. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend ahead.
Thanks a lot, Tripti, for having us. Definitely was a very exciting process for us as well. So yeah, anyone has any questions, please free to message me on LinkedIn or just connect.
Yeah, any of the panelists. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye.